The vast expanse of the galaxy stretched before the Galactic Council's chamber, visible through the transparent dome ceiling that crowned the magnificent circular hall. Thousands of stars sparkled against the velvet darkness, a constant reminder of the scale and diversity of the civilizations gathered below. The chamber itself was a marvel of interstellar architecture. Concentric rings of seats descended toward a central platform, accommodating representatives from hundreds of species, empires, and alliances that formed the complex interplanetary political system. Among these ancient powers, humanity was but a newcomer. They had achieved FDL travel barely a century ago, yet their swift rise to prominence had been unprecedented. Many council members regarded humans with a mixture of curiosity and thinly veiled concern. Their adaptability was remarkable, unsettling even. They had absorbed alien technologies, modified them, and in some cases improved upon designs that had taken other species millennia to develop. Ambassador Raymond Alvarez stood at the center of the chamber, seemingly unperturbed by the attention of countless alien eyes. He was of average height and build for a human, dressed in a simple yet elegant dark blue diplomatic uniform. His demeanor was polite, his voice measured, and a slight smile perpetually played across his lips, a smile that many council members found impossible to decipher. Distinguished representatives, Alvarez began, his voice resonating through the chamber. Earth extends its gratitude for this opportunity to present our proposal for the Interstellar Peace Initiative. We believe that through collaborative effort, we can address the ongoing conflicts in the Orion Spur and establish sustainable diplomatic channels. From the highest tier of the chamber, Lord Zorith of the Arcturon Empire observed with undisguised contempt. The Arcturans were an ancient military power, their empire spanning numerous star systems in the galactic core. Their representatives were instantly recognizable by their imposing stature, iridescent blue-gray skin, and the ornate battle armor they wore even to diplomatic gatherings. And what? Lord Zorith's voice boomed across the chamber, interrupting Alvarez's presentation. Could humanity possibly offer that our civilizations haven't already tried for thousands of years? You have barely learned to leave your solitary planet. You have some culture and a few cheap technologies you've cobbled together from our scraps. Murmurs rippled through the assembly, some of amusement, others of discomfort. Alvarez paused, his smile never faltering. There are things we value more than weapons, Lord Zorith, he replied calmly. Perhaps that is our contribution. The air in the chamber grew tense. The gathered delegates shifted in their seats, sensing the underlying current of hostility beneath the veneer of diplomatic exchange. Something was about to break. After the session, Lord Zorith retreated to a private chamber within the council's complex. There, 5 Arcturon military commanders awaited him, their postures rigid with discipline. The humans grow too bold, Zorith said, pacing the room. Their technological advancement rate is concerning. They've accomplished in decades what took most species centuries. Admiral Krell, the eldest of the commanders, stepped forward. They remain militarily inferior, my lord. Their fleet is small, their weapons primitive by our standards. Yet they spread through unclaimed systems with alarming speed, Zorith countered. Their diplomatic corps has secured alliances with species that have rebuffed us for generations. They're a potential threat. What do you propose? Asked Commander Vex, her hand resting on the energy blade at her hip. Zorith's expression darkened. A message must be sent, not just to Earth, but to all who might consider aligning with them. Their ambassador, this Alvarez, has been invited to our capital for private negotiations. He will not return. Several solar cycles later, Ambassador Alvarez arrived at Arctura Prime, the gleaming capital planet of the Arcturon Empire. The world was a testament to military precision, cities arranged in perfect geometric patterns, orbital defense platforms forming a deadly lattice around the planet. Alvarez was escorted not to a negotiation chamber, but to a vast amphitheater carved from the native blue crystal of Arctura Prime. Thousands of Arcturans filled the tiered seating. At the center stood a raised platform with a single pole of dark metal. What is the meaning of this? Alvarez asked his escorts, though his tone suggested he already knew. Justice, human, one guard said with a cruel smile. You have been found guilty of espionage against the Arcturon Empire. A trial without evidence or defense, Alvarez observed. How convenient. Cameras hovered throughout the amphitheater, broadcasting the proceedings across the Galactic Information Network. Zorith himself presided from an elevated throne, his voice amplified to reach every corner of the vast space. Raymond Alvarez of Earth, you stand accused of gathering strategic intelligence against the Arcturon Empire under the guise of diplomacy. The punishment is death. Alvarez was led to the platform and secured to the pole. Throughout the procedure, his composure never wavered. The slight smile remained on his lips, even as the executioner approached with an energy projector. Any final words, spy? Zorith called out. Alvarez raised his eyes, looking directly into the primary broadcast camera. Remember this moment, he said softly. It will be studied by historians as the beginning of your end. A beam of searing blue energy lanced through Alvarez's chest. His body slumped forward, but that enigmatic smile seemed frozen on his face. Throughout the Galactic Council, reactions varied. Some species expressed deep concern over the public execution of a diplomatic representative. Others remained silent, unwilling to challenge the powerful Arcturon Empire. A few, those who had experienced Arcturon aggression firsthand, watched with grim understanding. From Earth came a single, terse communication. We request a fair investigation into the death of Ambassador Alvarez. Nothing more. No threats, no fleet movements, no declaration of war. Just silence. The Arcturans interpreted this as fear, evidence that humanity recognized its inferior position and dared not provoke a true military power. Lord Zorith addressed the council days later. The matter of the human spy is closed, he declared. Let any who would send agents against us take note of the consequences. The silence from Earth persisted. Days turned to weeks. The galaxy continued its business. Then, the first anomaly appeared. An Arcturon supply convoy vanished in transit between their colony worlds. The ships were eventually found drifting in deep space, their engines and navigation systems completely inoperative, crew alive, but unable to explain what had happened. On the command console of each vessel, a simple message had been left. You killed a diplomat. We answer with silence. More incidents followed. Communication relays throughout Arcturon space began experiencing failures. Financial data transmissions became corrupted, leading to massive economic disruptions. Defense system diagnostics reported phantom vulnerabilities that, when patched, created actual security gaps. An emergency session of the Galactic Council was convened. Lord Zorith stood before the assembly, his usual confidence now undercut with barely concealed rage. The humans are engaging in covert attacks against the Arcturon Empire, he declared. This council must condemn their actions and impose sanctions immediately. A ripple of murmurs passed through the chamber as a solitary figure entered and took the seat previously occupied by Ambassador Alvarez. Dr. Margaret Caldwell was dressed in a simple gray suit with no diplomatic insignia or decorations. Her gray hair was pulled back in a severe style, and her expression revealed nothing as she surveyed the chamber. The representative from Earth is recognized, the council moderator announced. Dr. Caldwell rose, her movements deliberate and unhurried. The Arcturon Empire publicly executed a diplomatic representative of Earth without trial, evidence, or adherence to interstellar law, she stated, her voice carrying clearly despite its soft volume. We request a formal investigation into this crime and accountability for those responsible. And what can Earth do if we refuse? Zorith challenged with a harsh laugh. Your primitive fleet against our armadas? Your handful of colonies against our 1,000 worlds? Dr. Caldwell regarded him with the dispassionate gaze of a scientist observing a specimen. We are not discussing what Earth can do, Lord Zorith. We are discussing what is already happening. No proposal for investigation passed. The Arcturon Empire used its considerable influence to block any formal action by the Council. Dr. Caldwell departed without another word, leaving an unsettled silence in her wake. The disruptions escalated. Arcturon military installations reported energy fluctuations, weapons systems failing multiple diagnostics. Quantum communication networks suffered inexplicable delays or delivered garbled information. Critical supply chains faltered as inventory management systems began reporting phantom shortages or surpluses, sending resources to wrong destinations. Not once did a human ship fire upon an Arcturon vessel. Not one planet reported ground combat with human forces. There were no bombs, no assassinations, no conventional acts of war. There was only the systematic collapse of everything the Arcturans had built. Other galactic powers observed with growing unease. Intelligence agencies throughout the galaxy began piecing together a disturbing picture. Earth had apparently been preparing for this possibility for decades. Human diplomats had quietly negotiated access to communication nodes, trade routes, and data repositories throughout civilized space. They had studied the weaknesses of every major power while presenting the appearance of an open, somewhat naive newcomer to the galactic stage. Reports emerged of a specialized human task force known as the Spectres or Ghost Fleet. Their vessels carried no identification codes and employed stealth technology beyond what most civilizations believed possible. They didn't attack directly, but specialized in paralyzing the networks of their adversaries. Arcturon commanders dispatched hunter-killer squadrons to locate and destroy these phantom ships. None returned with confirmed kills. Some didn't return at all. In a desperate gambit, the Arcturon High Command authorized a direct assault on the Sol system, home of Earth. A massive fleet, comprising nearly one-third of their total military strength, entered hyperspace with orders to emerge at the edge of humanity's home system and launch an overwhelming attack. The fleet emerged from hyperspace precisely on schedule, but not at their intended coordinates. Instead of the outskirts of the Sol system, they found themselves in empty space, with no recognizable stellar patterns visible. On the bridge of the flagship, Grand Admiral Tyzak stared in disbelief at the navigation displays. "Where are we? What happened to our jump calculations?" Before any officer could respond, every screen on the bridge flickered and displayed the same image. Ambassador Alvarez, smiling his enigmatic smile. "Welcome, distinguished representatives of the Arcturon Empire," the image said, using the exact words Alvarez had spoken at the council presentation. "Earth extends its gratitude for this opportunity to present our proposal." "Shut it off," Tyzak commanded, but the technicians worked in vain. "You have arrived at the consequence of your greatest mistake," the image continued. "Your ships are now under our control. Your weapons systems have been deactivated. Your communications can only receive, not transmit." Throughout the vast fleet, the same message played on every vessel. Panic spread as commanders discovered they had lost control of even basic ship functions. On Arctura Prime, chaos unfolded on a different front. The planetary defense grid suddenly activated, then just as suddenly shut down completely. City illumination systems failed, plunging the meticulously organized urban centers into darkness. Public information displays simultaneously showed the execution of Alvarez, playing on endless loop. In the Imperial Palace, Lord Zorith watched in mounting horror as reports of system failures cascaded across his empire. "How is this possible?" he demanded of his technological advisors. "Their systems are not compatible with ours. They cannot possibly have infiltrated our networks to this degree." We don't know, my lord," confessed the chief science advisor. "It's as if they've been studying our systems for decades, planting dormant protocols that only now have activated." On the Galactic Council's emergency broadcast frequency, Dr. Margaret Caldwell appeared. Gone was the demure, gray-clad figure. She now wore what appeared to be a military uniform of stark black with silver accents. "The Arcturon Empire has committed war crimes against Earth through the unlawful execution of a diplomatic representative," she stated. We did not seek this conflict. We offered friendship and cooperation. In return, we received contempt and violence." She paused, her gaze seeming to penetrate through the broadcast to each viewer individually. "We do not wish to destroy you, but we will make you understand." The Arcturon High Command made one final, desperate move. They activated their ancient superweapon, the Oblivion Lance, a massive station capable of focusing the energy of a small star into a devastating beam that could crack a planet's crust. As the weapon powered up, targeting Earth's coordinates, the Arcturon commanders allowed themselves a moment of hope. Even the humans could not have prepared for this. The Oblivion Lance had been kept secret for centuries, a final resort never before deployed. The weapon fired, a brilliant stream of concentrated energy that tore through space toward the Sol system. Arcturon observers watched, anticipating Earth's destruction. Instead, the beam curved. Impossibly, inexplicably, it'd been in space, arcing back toward Arcturon territory. Not toward Arctura Prime, but toward the uninhabited Arcturon training world of Krell 4. The planet's surface boiled under the impact, vast clouds of superheated rock and vapor erupting into space. "Ow!" whispered Lord Zorath, watching the feed from the observatory. "How could they redirect the beam?" His question went unanswered as reports continued to flood in. The Arcturon fleet was adrift in unknown space. Planetary systems throughout the Empire were failing. Colonial worlds were declaring independence, sensing the Empire's weakness. And still, not a single human warship had been sighted. Within weeks, the mighty Arcturon Empire collapsed from within. Its treasury was depleted through systematic financial manipulation. Its fleet was scattered, stranded, or reprogrammed to serve other functions. Its communications network had been so thoroughly compromised that no order could be trusted. On Arctura Prime, riots broke out as food distribution systems failed. The noble houses turned on each other, each blaming the others for provoking the humans. The military, with their command structure in disarray, splintered into factions. The Galactic Council convened once more. The seat of the Arcturon Empire stood empty. Dr. Margaret Caldwell addressed the assembly, her voice firm but without triumph. Earth does not seek tribute or submission from any civilization. We do not claim Arcturon territories or resources. We ask only for justice, a tribunal to hold accountable those responsible for the war crime against Ambassador Alvarez. She surveyed the chamber, meeting the eyes of representatives who now regarded humanity with new understanding. If this council will not act, we will. Not through destruction, but through truth. Every conversation, every decision, every order that led to Ambassador Alvarez's execution has been recorded and preserved. We are prepared to make this information public throughout the galaxy. The Council, recognizing that its authority had been fundamentally compromised, established the tribunal. Those directly responsible for Alvarez's death were identified and brought to justice. Lord Zorath himself was among those convicted, stripped of rank and confined to an isolated world far from any center of power. Humanity consolidated its position within the Galactic Council, not as a military conqueror, but as a new type of power, one that understood that in an interconnected galaxy, control of information and systems could be more devastating than fleets of warships. In a secure facility orbiting Earth, a group of high-ranking officers reviewed simulations for potential future conflicts. The central screen displayed a simple message: lesson learned. Never touch our diplomats. Director Thomas Caldwell, head of Earth's Special Diplomatic Protection Division and husband to Dr. Margaret Caldwell, smiled as he surveyed the room. The officers, human and alien allies alike, nodded in understanding. Their assignment was not to fight wars, but to ensure they never had to. "Was it worth it?" asked a young lieutenant. "The resources we've dedicated to this program for decades could have built us a conventional fleet 10 times over." Ambassador Alvarez knew the risks, Director Caldwell replied. He also knew his death would serve a greater purpose: to demonstrate once and for all that humanity cannot be judged by traditional metrics of military power. The lieutenant considered this. But sir, now that our capabilities are known, won't other powers develop countermeasures? Of course they will, Caldwell said with a slight smile reminiscent of Alvarez's own. And we'll adapt again. That's what humans do best. In the vastness of space, a small fleet of unmarked vessels continued their silent patrol. They carried no weapons visible to conventional scans. They made no threatening moves. But throughout the galaxy, word had spread. Earth's diplomats went in peace, protected by the most terrible weapon ever devised, the absolute, systemic war that followed if they were harmed. On 1,000 worlds, leaders looked to the stars with new understanding. Humanity had warned them with courtesy, but when met with knives, they had shown that silence could be more terrifying than the roar of guns. In the Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council, a memorial had been erected where Ambassador Alvarez once stood. The simple holographic display showed him as he had been in life, unassuming, polite, with that slight enigmatic smile. Beneath it, an inscription in the common galactic language. Diplomacy is the art of letting someone else have your way. Representatives from across the galaxy paused before it, reflecting on how a civilization they had dismissed had rewritten the rules of power among the stars, not with destruction, but with silence and control. And in the darkness between stars, the Ghost Fleet continued its vigil, ensuring that lesson would never need to be taught again.